Sensuality is an enriching experience that transcends mere physical touch. It invites us to explore openness and vulnerability, creating deeper connections with others. By engaging in mindful touch, we enhance our awareness of each other's desires and boundaries. This practice cultivates intimacy as it encourages honest communication and emotional safety. Each caress becomes a dialogue between bodies, transcending words and allowing us to connect on a profound level. Embracing the art of sensuality fosters trust, reigniting passion and curiosity in relationships. It's a journey of discovery, inviting us to celebrate the beauty of human connection through the transformative power of touch.
Hey everyone, welcome to Pleasure Principles, the podcast where we dive deep into the fascinating terrain of human consciousness, self-discovery, and the secrets that bring joy, clarity, and meaning to our lives. I'm your host Avik and guide on this journey. And each episode, we bring in thought leaders, mindfulness advocates, and modern day explorers to unravel the big mysteries of existence. So today I'm thrilled to have Rudy Daniel with us. So welcome to the show, Rudy.
Thank you very much, Avik. Happy to be here.
Lovely. So Rudy, before we start our conversation, I'd quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Rudy is a mindfulness advocate, tech innovator, and author of Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind. So from leading tech companies to founding a powerful mindfulness app, Rudy has spent his life on an incredible journey of discovery and deeper connection with the universe. So let's dive in and explore this path, his practices, and the wisdom he has gained along the way. So welcome to the show again, Rudy.
Thank you again.
So, Rudy, just to start, what was that defining moment when you felt that there was more to life than just routines and possessions?
Yeah. So, when I was a child, the world seemed very mysterious to me. It felt like half reality, half dream. And I had a lot of beautiful experiences as a child. But throughout my adolescence and my adulthood, I forgot all about it. And life became mundane and it became a drag. And somewhere in my mid-30s, I felt this crisis of existence where everything is colorless, everything is dull, and I was kind of lost in thinking that there is no novelty anymore, that everything is and going to be the way it is right now. Although until that point, I've done some things in my life that from the outside, it may have seemed that I should be a happy person or I should be fulfilled at least. But for me, it wasn't the case. And this kind of condition, this kind of point in my life when I felt very low, I began asking again the questions that I had as a child, the basic questions of who am I anyway, that feels all these things and thinks all these thoughts, and what is the universe? What is this place? Why am I alive? And all of these questions, you might say that they were my initiation to this kind of understanding and philosophy, and gradually it became my life.
Oh, okay. So how did you dive into Eastern traditions like Hinduism and Jain change the way that you view everyday life?
Yeah, so during my exploration, when I began asking those questions, I had no familiarity with the Eastern traditions whatsoever. I had some ideas about Western theology and some myths Um, and so I had no sufficient tools to deal with great questions and the big mystery of consciousness and of reality. And so while I was deepening my philosophical discourses mainly with myself, I stumbled upon the Eastern traditions such as Hinduism and
Okay.
Buddhism and Zen. And as I read and read deeper into these teachings, I gradually felt that the subtleties that these teachings carry throughout centuries, throughout thousands of years, are very profound, and we should explore them further. And so I dove ever deeper and found a lot of guidance and found a lot of tools and ground from which I could stand and ask these questions again, but now with better tools.
Understood. Understood. So why do you think that we are often so disconnected from ourselves and the universe?
Well, in essence, when we are born, if you look at babies, they don't really differentiate themselves from the world around them. There is some sort of an organism with everything else. They have no concept of separation. But with time, the conditioning of the mind, and I feel that this is a faculty of the mind that helps us survive, that divides things, and thus we see the world from the point of view as a separate being who is locked inside a skin, and we develop some sort of persona or some notion of myself or the idea of I, colored by the experience that we gain through our
Okay.
life. And as we become older and older, the vast experience that we have gained throughout the years have turned into what we call the ego. And
Mhm.
when we are adults, we feel absolutely disconnected from the universe. Well, at least most of us. And we live inside ideas and concepts, but we don't know ourselves. And this is why we feel disconnected. From the beginning, if someone doesn't ask himself the question, who am I anyway, that experiences all of this, of course, there will be confusion because no matter what you think about the world, if the thinker is something that is not known to you or transparent to you, and so your beginning point is very strange. So how can you judge what you see
Yeah.
if you don't know yourself? And this is why we are at this state of our adulthood.
Exactly. Exactly. So you speak about behind the mask, right? So do you think that we are ever fully able to drop it?
Well, eventually we will drop it when we'll die. So that's promised, at least. But I don't feel that we should be trying to get rid of the mask because no matter what you do, the you inside as you experience yourself and the you as people experience you from outside are very different. You experience yourself as some sort of a mental being. We call ourselves souls or Atman or self and many other words. We say I, but people, when they look at you, they see a body. They see a man or a woman or a child or whatever. So by definition, you're wearing a mask. You have came to a great masquerade. And the idea is not to drop the mask. The idea is to celebrate the mask. The idea is to understand the individuality of the mask and do as much as you can do with this mask in contribution to the world and to the
Oh,
people around you.
that's lovely. That's really lovely. So, I'm thinking from the listener's perspective, like listeners often feel drawn to mindfulness, but struggle to stick with it. So, any advice?
I think that it is a way of confusion that people, when they think of mindfulness, they usually think of meditation synonymously. I mean, not everyone, but the people in the West, we usually think that meditation and mindfulness is kind of the same. But there are two different things, and maybe you will allow me to elaborate on those, and
Yeah,
I
please,
think
please.
we can build from there. So meditation is a very old Eastern tradition that has a lot of cultural
Mm,
context and background. And even the word itself, meditation in English, it means to think about something deeply, is to meditate on something. But the word in Sanskrit has nothing to do with that. It doesn't mean think. It is basically the primal condition of the self before it is qualified by experiences, by the mind, or by the body. And the method of meditation is to unveil that and go back. But as it was imported to the West, Westerners think that meditation is something like sitting for 10 minutes with their eyes closed and try to think of nothing, or try to still the mind, or try to quiet the mind. And of course, it's almost impossible, because the mind is far superior to the will of the man. If it wasn't the case, everyone would just choose happy thoughts and happy emotion, and your life would be beautiful. But this is not the case. And when people without any context try to close their eyes and think of nothing, they meet their demons in a matter of minute or two. Their body is itching, they feel hot or cold, and they have millions of thoughts. And the last thing they are doing is meditating. And so mindfulness is a whole different thing. Mindfulness is the background of all methods, of all spiritual methods, or of all methods related to the mind. It is a very simple idea of being, like the word suggests, being full of mind or being mindful. And being full of mind means when you are doing something, you must do it with absolute presence. You must do it as intensely as you can. And so, for example, if you breathe, you don't just breathe and think of the next 10 minutes or the love affair you once had. When you breathe, you concentrate all of your attention on a simple thing like the muscles that are contracting and releasing the breath or intaking the breath. And you just follow the motions of the body and you follow the sensation of the air going through your lungs. Now, breathing is not the only mindfulness method. A mindfulness method can be cooking, talking to a friend, being with your pet, playing music, drinking coffee, anything. You just take one small thing that you like to do, and while you're doing it, just be
yeah.
absolutely present in the act itself. And what it does is something strange happens, something mysterious happens. And with time, a crack in reality is a term that I like to name this phenomena. A crack in reality starts to open up, and suddenly you see that the way you have perceived life so far is not the only possible way, that the states of consciousness that are now available to you are wider, and your spectrum of sensitivity widens, and thus you feel more, you see more, you hear more. And strange things occur to you. Like people like to talk about the phenomena of synchronicities or that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. This is just the way the universe works. And when you are in tune to that, when you are fully present and mindful, it just happens on its own accord. So there is no effort in that. It doesn't involve any effort. You just take one small thing you like and do it intensely. This is mindfulness, and anyone can do it.
Mm.
And the app that we introduced, like you said in the beginning, I am also an entrepreneur, and we have published our mindfulness app, which emphasizes this philosophy, the Affirmate app, where you do short practices. Some of them are just 90 seconds. And we are trying to create this experience for you when you are just fully immersed in presence and present. But anyone can do it with anything, beginning with the breath and cup of coffee and all those things I've described. So yeah.
Sure. Lovely, lovely. So, do you ever feel that seeking meaning in everything can be a trap?
Taking meaning.
Seeking meaning
Yeah.
in every. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Uh, the Buddha said, one of the things the Buddha said is that desire is the cause of suffering.
Hmm.
And when students came to the Buddha, he said, just stop desiring. And then they have tried to stop desiring, but soon enough they realized that this is a new form of desire. They're just desiring not to desire. And thus it creates a paradox in which you cannot let go of this phenomena of desiring or not desiring. And thus, seeking in the first place creates the problem. This is a phenomenon of the intellect. It has nothing to do with the meaning of life. I can describe music if you haven't heard music before, and I will be so articulate and try to describe something like the Moonlight Sonata to you. But no matter how articulate I am, the phenomena of hearing the music would be something that is totally different from the analytical investigation of trying to explain music. And so when the mind is always seeking something that it is not now, it is not here, and the mind misses the point. And thus, when you practice mindfulness, the act of seeking, it dissolves. You understand that meaning of life is always found at the present moment where you are, and not in a faraway place and not somewhere in the future. I hope that answers your question.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just asking, like I believe like it was missed in between. So what I was also thinking, like how do you reconcile the ancient philosophies with the fast-paced demands of the modern world?
Yeah, so as proven, those philosophies, although are very subtle and beautiful, are not for everyone. You have to have a certain kind of mind to go about entertaining these kind of philosophies, which could be also quite dangerous. Your life can change, and then you can become mad if you go deep enough. But the eventual premise of all the teachings that I have ever read or heard, the the premise is that you have to drop all philosophies, you have to drop all the teachings, you have to drop all the methods. You can go with a brick and knock on the door, but let's say that the brick is the method. But when
Yeah.
someone opens the door, you have to leave the brick outside. And so there is no need to reconcile these philosophies into something yet more subtle and yet more analytical. In the end of the day, all these philosophies come to mindfulness. And it just points out, but in many different ways and for many different minds, there are different kinds of teachings and philosophies. But in the end of the day, they just point to reality. And if you go about exploring the Eastern traditions, the method of Zen Buddhism would be most likely the great example of what I'm saying is that a Zen master, in essence, have nothing to teach. And when you come to a Zen master and say, show me the meaning of reality, we'll just point at the tree and say, well, you see, it's a long tree, and that's it. So what the master is trying to do is to show you that reality is always beyond the words. You can point and create words however subtle you like. And there are subtle ways to create descriptions of the world. But in the end of the day, it's right there. And you don't need to explore it in philosophical ways. You just need to look at it and absorb it. And this is what mindfulness is all about.
Exactly. That's really, really lovely. And thank you so much, Rudy, for such an inspiring conversation and for guiding us through the layers of consciousness and the mindful living. So on this, like before we wrap, I'll quickly request if someone wants to connect with you, how they can connect.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation as well. And I think it's very important to touch on topics like this, especially in times where there's so much anxiety and depression in the world. And it's really becoming the greatest new pandemic. And people are in a kind of low place in their life, I feel. So raising awareness about mindfulness is very important. And thank you for having this platform in which I can share. So regarding your question, people can just download the Affirmate app and use the contact form. Me and my co-founder are really excited about sharing feedback with users and understanding how they experience mindfulness and helps us improve. So you can either download the app on iOS or Android. It's the Affirmate app. It's an A logo with a vibration within. Or you can just go directly to our website, which is affirmate.app, and use the contact form there, and we'll be happy to talk to you.
Wow, that's lovely. Great. So, for our listeners, if you have enjoyed the episode, do not forget to subscribe and share pleasure principles with friends who might be searching for a bit more depth and connection in their lives. So, until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and let the pleasure guide your principles. So, thank you so much.